Welcome back to Lost Legacies.
A Hidden City Book Company production.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Previously on Lost Legacies. I don't know. Watch the last 4.5 years of this podcast. Welcome to part 2 of our Lost ending ceremony wrap-up
extravaganza.
Yeah, part 1 was essentially just pretty much just talking about the finale. This time we're going to be talking about more of the series as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So to jump into it, we did have a little homework. First off,
Yes.
we watched Aloha to Lost and the Q&A, the Jimmy Kimmel special that aired live right after the series finale. It was interesting. It wasn't exactly what I remembered, but did you like it?
I liked the like the lead up portion, everything that wasn't part of the Q&A, because I guess the Q&A was only for like online
Right.
subscribers or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what Kimmel said. Uh um but yeah, like I did like the lead up, asking everybody who was on, asking them
Oh, like
at least
that. Yeah, it was
like
like
one
39 minutes
question.
essentially, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was like a sort of extended version of his show.
Right.
Yeah. I liked it. You can just very much tell that, like, yeah, this is it's so weird because, like, this is a talk show format. Like, this isn't
hmm
meant for kind of whatever it is that you're doing here, but
hmm
yeah, I don't know. So it was just a little weird.
I will say the best part of that special was Michael Giacchino being there
Yeah.
doing the music, and it's like a jazz kind of rendition of the Lost score.
Yeah.
Every single song, I was like kind of just dancing. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, this is so good.
Yeah.
I was like, crap, I want this album.
Right. I want, Michael Giacchino does Lost smooth jazz.
Yeah, they even, of course, they covered Drive Shaft, but they covered Make Your Own Kind of Music
Yeah.
and a really like kind of jazzy, funky version. And I'm like, I like this
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. It's interesting like which cast they could and couldn't get. And because I mean, a lot of them were already working on other projects, you know.
Yeah.
So they were able to do cameos like in the little skits they did and stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was fine. It was all right. It's like you said, the show wasn't built for what they were trying to do. So each actor maybe got one question and then that was it,
Hmm.
you know? And I mean, on one hand, it's like, uh, why even, why even try? Like, I don't know, like why the guy who plays Widmore was there. You know, like he
Yeah.
wasn't one of the main ones, and like that would have been one less person to have, and one more question could have gone to like one of the main cast, you know?
Yeah.
I would have liked to hear more from the guy who plays Faraday, you know? He kind of had his one question and that was it, you know?
Hmm.
But like I don't know. I mean, yeah, it was just it was interesting. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like I feel like because I know I texted you very briefly, but it's like I feel like more shows should do something like this, but not not have it be part of like a standard like, hey, we're just putting it in the next time slot, Jimmy, like you'll get an extended whatever, but like
Right.
no, like make it an event, make it like, hey, we're saying goodbye to, I don't know, Severance or whatever,
Well, I
you
was gonna
know?
say, like, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, I'm like, you know what? Like, I get what's going on here, and it's because nowadays we do have that for a lot of those big shows.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if it's a big, successful, popular show, you're gonna get a talk show. You're gonna get it afterwards for whatever. Even Arcane had one, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
but back then, like this was fairly this wasn't really a thing back then. Like podcasts were around in 2010, but there wasn't really like shows didn't get like after shows or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So I think from like the producer standpoint, they're kind of like, oh, people aren't going to want to watch this. How are we going to keep them tuned in? All right, well, we're comedy, so let's do comedy. And I think that's kind
Yeah.
of just the general thinking period, which is why only comedians host late night shows.
Mm.
And it's because, well, comedy, they figure will keep the viewers there. So, uh, but I would have really liked to, and this is kind of going into after that 40 minutes where we get into like the Q&A portion.
Hmm.
Um, I would have really liked them to have taken the Q&A more seriously because
Yeah.
especially for the time, this is one of the most successful shows of all time, certainly one of the biggest shows of all time when it premiered, and they're kind of just treating the jokes, the questions like jokes. Like this would
Yeah.
have been a really cool moment right after we're like 40 minutes after the Lost finale. Let's ask some good questions, and even Jimmy
Hmm.
Kimmel kind of calls it out. I was expecting y'all to ask more serious questions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the producers, they probably didn't think anyone would be into that. So like
Yeah, probably not.
we'll pick the more funny or interesting questions.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was like, oh man, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
So whereas
Yeah.
nowadays that's all we get.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I think of, uh like I think part of what made, because it's really hard to say that any show has like replicated Lost's success.
Right.
Um I feel like maybe Game of Thrones has kind of reached that, but what I think this like Aloha to Lost did was kind of like open that up, like you said, so that we get something like like Walking Dead. They had Talking Dead with Chris
Mm-hmm.
Hardwick, and that aired right after the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they did that for the first season because it was so short, but I definitely think that like afterwards they had that pretty much, until the very end, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, I
They
don't know
even
if
did it
Hardwick.
with all the spin-offs as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
So like, uh, yeah, like so it's interesting to see this as kind of like the prototype of that.
yeah.
Um, and especially too, because like then you get to, sure, like you can get like some like funny nerds or whatever to do this, but usually they are fans first. So
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna be asking more insightful questions. They're gonna get, a deep dive into stuff. And I feel like
Yeah.
that was kind of the most disappointing thing, especially like you said, a lot of these people had already moved on, had already, started other projects or were doing
Mm-hmm.
different things by the time this finale aired.
Mm-hmm.
So to get everybody back, it is like a mini reunion, but then we're all just kind of poking fun at the thing that like you can kind of like, I won't say that anybody was like upset or anything. Like I
Mm-hmm.
won't speak for that, but like you can just kind of tell that like Matthew Fox is a little uncomfortable with
Yeah, and he
with everything
typically,
going on.
even today, he doesn't really do a lot of that stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like he'll do the minimum press required. Also,
Yeah.
he tends to do like more kind of I guess indie or just he does more films that are like out of the spotlight, so there's kind of naturally less press
Less.
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, throughout Lost, he was very kind of I mean, he showed up on SNL. They did talk shows and stuff. But I feel like, especially for the leading man of this show, he was very kind of just he's kind of like Killing Murphy. He was just kind of just staying out of it as much as he could. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So yeah, like yeah, it's interesting. I I think I'm very glad I didn't watch this like as soon as Lost ended because
Yeah,
I don't
same.
know that I don't know that I would have wanted to like have because I feel like maybe that's why you had it in maybe like a higher regard because
Hmm.
you're high off of all the emotion, you know?
I
It's the
was,
final night, it's like
and
it just ended and now we're just here in this
right.
euphoria, you
I
know?
was I was watching the Aloha to Lost, but I was also like online trying to see what everyone was saying about it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Um, yeah. But yeah, so it was definitely a more humorous take, which I didn't remember at all. So I was like, oh yeah, it was so weird like going back and watching it now. And like
Hmm.
there wasn't a single question where it was just like, okay, interesting.
Hmm.
I did enjoy more like Jimmy Kimmel kind of giving his perspective, even though a lot of it I was like, Jimmy, what are you talking about? They just
Yeah.
explained what the Flash Sideways was, you
Yeah.
know? So he was totally wrong, but like it was interesting to like you could follow his logic of like why
Yeah.
he thought certain things, you know? I'm like, oh, okay, I guess, but still, you're wrong. Like Christian Shepherd literally explains it in the last 5 minutes, you
Yeah.
know? So
That
yeah, I
must be
mean,
wild too. Like, were all of those people sitting in the audience? Like, did they all sit there and get to watch the
that's
final
I
episode?
think they did. Now,
That's a crazy experience. I wouldn't want that as a
I
fan
wouldn't
at
want that either,
all.
especially like Jimmy Kimmel of all people, like loved the show and championed it, was a champion for it, like through the whole run. And then his experience is kind of just there on like it's a big screen, but it's kind of far away from the audience,
Hmm.
you know. And then like immediately after it ends, he has to jump up and start working. Like that's not how I would want to watch it, you know.
Yeah.
And Matthew Fox, when he came out, you could see he was kind of emotional, and he was saying he's like, yeah, that was the first time I saw that ending, you know.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, that's wild. So I don't know. I don't know. But also the thing with like these days, the talk shows, they're all pre-recorded. There really is
Yeah.
even with all the streaming we have these days, no one's really doing anything live anymore.
Yeah.
You know, which I'm like that's fine, you know, it's easier to contain and edit and control what you're putting out there. Um, but yeah, so now it's like, yeah, you can finish the project, you can watch it, enjoy it or hate it, and then you do the after show. I think do even Agents of Shield got one like that last season or two, you
Oh, yeah,
know?
that's right.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, all in all, it was disappointing, but I still had fun. You know,
Yeah.
I liked the
Yeah.
sketches they did. It was very dated, you
Yeah.
know. There's a sincere reference to Cosby.
Hmm.
So Bill Cosby. So this was before he had been found guilty of anything.
Marilyn
Um,
Manson is
Marilyn
just
Manson straight up
proudly out there
out there in
in
the
this,
audience.
yeah, in the audience, and we're like, "Hey, isn't it cool? Marilyn Manson's here." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, this
I
is
was like, oh.
crazy." Yeah.
It was weird. Oh, did they show like a promo of like just Jimmy Kimmel Live and like all this stuff and like Diddy shows up in one of the clips? I'm like, oh my
Oh yeah.
God. I was like,
I was like,
damn,
"Geez,
dude.
man."
We got all stars tonight.
Just the fact that the final image of the Aloha to Lost is the
Uh-huh.
smoke monster getting snorted up by Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
And he's just there like da 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 da. And
Yeah.
it just cuts to black. I'm like, that's it. That was it. Like if you watch the entire thing,
Hmm.
the end, the extended cut, and then
Uh-huh.
Jimmy Kimmel Live, that was the end of your night.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. I did like
Uh
the sketches. That's interesting too. Like I did like the alternate endings.
yeah.
Because what was the first one? The first one was
Oh, Survivor.
oh yeah, Survivor. You're like, okay, whatever, that was funny.
Yeah, it's like that was funny. The second one was the best, where they just literally straight up do the Sopranos,
Yeah,
but
which was
it's
still fresh-ish at the time. I don't know when
yeah,
The Sopranos ended, but I'm like,
yeah.
oh my God. And then the third one, dude, Bob Newhart shows up. You
Yeah,
know, I'm like,
yeah,
dude,
dude, Bob
what?
Newhart.
Like, and I don't know. I feel like you couldn't do that today. Also, Bob Newhart's he passed away, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like even then when they did it, like a long time had passed. But
Hmm.
again, we don't really see a lot of like these after shows or talk shows about specific shows. So it's like, what other opportunities would we have outside of like SNL or whatever to do like this kind of weird twist on Lost? You
Yeah.
know, today it wouldn't really work, you know, because especially with all the streaming, everything's just kind of more available. It's supposed to be more
Hmm.
available. Uh, and also, I think a lot of people don't really know who Bob Newhart is anymore, you know, especially the younger
Yeah.
crowd. So it's like, and also at this point, The Sopranos is so old. So I don't know, like, I imagine like if it was done today, they would do like a Game of Thrones reference or something
Hmm.
like that, you know, or
Hmm.
Breaking Bad. Like I don't know, um, but even then, it just feels like, okay. Like back then, all like that's humor still felt fresh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So,
It is a time capsule in more ways than one, because I think you're
mhm,
right. It's in a strange way, it's the end of an era of television.
yeah,
You know, like Lost was the biggest show at the time, is a worldwide phenomenon.
mhm,
And I think that's the thing, it was a phenomenon. Like it,
yeah,
like it kind of did spark a lot of those like very like kind of like uh um I don't know, I don't think urban's the right word, but like just sort of like this like indie sort of like marketing campaign. Like I feel like we don't get any of like the Dark Knight marketing,
mhm,
guerrilla marketing. That's what it was.
mhm,
Like the crazy sites. And I remember they had like geocaches that you could go and like had to go look for
mhm,
clues and do all this stuff. And it was like Lost kind of started that,
mhm.
the Dark Knight sort of solidified it. And now that's why we've got, I feel like that's part of the reason why we've got like uh some TikTok sensations or whatever, where it's like, oh, hey, by the way, like we're gonna use some TikTok stars to promo our movie. Like there's a 1-to-1 direct correlation between those.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's the end of an era of television where like TV was definitely one way. There were things, where it's like, hey, like let's have a joke where Bob Newhart shows up and we're referencing the end of his show.
Mhm.
Like stuff like that. Like all of that was still fresh in an audience's mind, because I feel like that was for the generation that grew up on reruns,
Mhm.
and like that generation. And I feel like post Lost, that generation definitely grew up. So they don't have that anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and they grew up in a world that was influenced by Lost,
Yeah.
and everyone everyone can look back and they'll make fun of Lost or talk down on it, but it was one of those things that like it really impacted so much,
Hmm.
and again, because we always talk about those 2000s of like Lord of the Rings did the great job of kind of making the nerd culture like more mainstream. Like everyone
Yeah.
was into it, And
Hmm.
then, we had the Harry Potters and then we had the Batman, Nolan's Batman films. Like that was those early days of what we have now where like it's okay to be geeky and nerdy and like it's the cool thing,
Yeah.
and Lost was kind of at the forefront of that.
Yeah.
Um, like you said, it was a phenomena, and that's why I always compare it to Game of Thrones, because like Breaking Bad was great, a lot of people watched it. Same thing
Yeah.
with Mad Men, but none of those shows were like global phenomenon the way Lost or Game of Thrones was. You could even
Yeah.
say maybe The Office, because the
Yeah.
American Office, it was a hit globally, and then like all these other people started remaking it, even though the American one was a remake.
Yeah.
So, that's like a whole different other tier that not every show gets, even something like Breaking Bad, which is easily one of the greatest shows of all time, according to people who have watched it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I don't know. It's and I and this is all stuff we've talked about throughout the past 4.5 years, but I think Lost was also the show that helped usher in the era of um what do you want to call it? Like the internet, the beginning of the internet, even though the internet's older than Lost.
Sure.
But it was that era, those mid 2000s where like the 2000s started and like we didn't really there wasn't streaming. There you couldn't really buy stuff, like TV shows online yet.
Hmm.
But then by 2010, like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Things are streaming, you can buy things. They even did like an advertisement, buy the final season of Lost on iTunes or whatever. And I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Like none of that was really in place when Lost started. Well, I mean, I think you could probably still like buy it on iTunes by then, like 2004. I don't remember, but a big thing was like Facebook and Twitter and the social media side of it. You know, it went from like that was the era of the fandoms being on forums to the end of Lost where like everyone's on social media talking about it.
Yeah, people
And
are like live tweeting it, being like, "Oh
yeah,
my God, like he kicked Locke off the cliff."
yeah. So I don't know. It was just a very unique point in time in TV and like geek culture.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people they need to put that respect back on the name Lost.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
I agree.
After that, though, we ended up watching The New Man in Charge, which was like the official like Lost epilogue that they filmed just for the Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah.
I had never watched this. So I was super excited. I got ready, like I was about to watch another episode, and I knew it was
Hmm.
only 10 minutes. So I was like, all right, let's see what this is. This is the first new Lost content I'm gonna watch in since it aired 15 years ago is when it ended, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did you think about it?
You know, it's very part of it is very much like, oh hey, by the way, like here's your explanation for the polar bears.
Yeah. And even then they didn't explain it. They're just like, yeah, we're doing stuff with them. We're
Yeah.
experimenting. Like
Yeah. But I mean like that was like
we knew that.
we knew that. And if like unless like here's the thing. This was I feel like this was made specifically for the people who, you know, need their handheld,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
watching shows, and if a thing isn't explicitly stated by a character or
Hmm.
written somewhere on a wall, that like you could just infer like, hey, Dharma is doing weird stuff. They're doing
Yeah.
all these crazy experiments. They've got this crazy hippie commune, on the island since the 60s and 70s,
Hmm.
where they're doing all this experimental crap.
Hmm.
Polar bears. That's how they got there. The polar
Yeah.
bears are part of the Dharma crap, you
Hmm.
know? So it's like, hey, it's cool. It's great. We got to see Pierre Chang, back again to explain what the polar bears are, and, what like the purpose of the Hydra station is,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, cool. But
And it's like, do we need that? Does that
yeah,
does that answer feel good? Are you
yeah,
happy that you got that? It's like, no, because it's not important.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not important at all. I really liked everything else around it. Like Michael Emerson coming into the factory,
Uh-huh.
telling these guys, hey, like Dharma hasn't existed, for a while. In fact, it was defunct when you guys were hired.
And it's just
Like
like
interesting.
I feel like why the hell would Ben waste his time saying this stuff, watching the
Hmm.
video with these guys? It's like, no, this is just they tried to write something for the fans who still had those questions, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure,
And
for
it's
sure.
like that I'm surprised they didn't do the numbers. Well, these numbers represent this and this and this. I
Yeah,
think they tried to explain it in one of like the virtual games, and it's just like, I don't know, it's weird.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I did like the second part though.
I did too.
Where
I did too.
Ben goes to visit Walt at the mental institute. I'm like, oh, dude, and that's where
Hmm.
I kind of like perked up again. I got excited. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm watching. This is new Lost content for me. I was like,
Yeah,
oh wow, and to actually see them go back to Walt,
yeah,
and touch on his story. I was like, oh, okay, that was really that was nice, you
yeah.
know. Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. Listeners, if you didn't watch it, Essentially Ben goes to a mental institute to essentially recruit Walt, who's a patient there. They never really say why. I mean, probably because of his experiences on the island, and also we know he's shown signs of some kind of powers
Hmm.
back in those early seasons.
Hmm.
Yeah, and he ends
Well,
up getting Walt out.
well, yeah, like that's a fascinating thread before we finish because it's like uh the last time we saw Walt was the last time we saw John Locke before this season.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
And he seemed
Locke,
to be doing okay.
yeah, he seemed to be doing fine. So that's why I was really surprised when, it's Walt that's in the institution. I was like,
Yeah,
okay. It's like, and this isn't a full episode. We're not like we don't get any explanation, why is Walt there? But yeah, like you can just
right,
infer that like he had like one, yeah, he has trauma from his days on the island, and also I'm sure his powers haven't subsided.
right.
Like, so those are probably the reason why he's there.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was nice to see Hurley again.
Yeah,
That was
and
cool.
and he has a job for Walt. I don't know. Maybe he's gonna replace Hurley one day. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Although, yeah, I will say that like Hurley was definitely like giving Jacob vibes
Hmm.
in that like way where it's just like, hey, I got a job for you. I'm like, oh, what?
I kind
You
of
don't
dug
need
it
to act
though.
like
I kind of dug it
Jacob
because
Hurley.
like there would have to be a change in character, just having these different responsibilities and powers. Maybe who
I'm
knows?
assuming powers, yeah.
Yeah, um,
Yeah. Also, it's Hurley, so like, okay, fine. Like, if
yeah,
anybody's gonna get to act like, the cool new kid on the block, he's even wearing like an all black button up,
yeah,
blazer. I'm like, all right, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So,
Hugo's
because I was even
thriving.
thinking, I'm like, how come he didn't go? Why did he say send Ben? I was like, well, because Hurley used to be a patient there. That's
Yeah.
my thinking. That's probably why he didn't do it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go in
Um,
there.
yeah. But otherwise, I feel like he would just show up, and
Mhm.
do it himself. Uh,
I guess it's also like it's like the trust thing, I think
yeah,
Jacob kind of does that too, where it's like you gotta have faith. You gotta take the leap of faith,
yeah,
you know. And yeah, like it's very much a resolution for or at least the steps to resolution with Walt and Ben, who caused the PTSD, who is this a
yeah,
major source of trauma in his life,
yeah,
for him to just come up and just be like, hey,
yeah,
I'm sorry for everything I did to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All in all, I mean, it was good. Like, if this was a novel, I wouldn't want it to be like the epilogue at the end. I like the show. I like the story ending with Jack closing his eye. But
Yeah.
it was good. It was nice. I liked it. I'm like, okay, could have done without all the explanation and like that technical crap. I'm like, okay, we don't need this.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
Walt
Yeah.
stuff was great. I don't want to speed run this, but I do have some
Uh-oh.
things. I do have some things to ask,
All right.
and we still have some time, but still, I have some things to ask. So, first off, can you rank the seasons least favorite
Oh.
to favorite?
Oh, least favorite to favorite.
Yeah,
Ooh, okay. What do we say? Two. Two's least favorite.
agreed. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, damn. Now I'm trying to like. Now I'm trying to go. Okay, it's two, three.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Also, we've been watching this show for 4.5 years, so
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to remember everything that goes on, and I'm trying to remember my ranking from the last time we did this.
Every single thing that happened in every single episode of the show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. There's that. There was that. Um. Okay, I'm very confident in two. I'm a little leery on three,
Okay.
but I feel like three was also one of like a rocky season that then had like a really strong end.
Okay.
One.
Okay.
Ooh, no, that's an interesting one. Because it's hard because it's like, where do I put this season?
Yeah.
This is six.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do this. It's 2, 3, 1, 6, 5, 4.
Really? Okay. So you like season 5 more than season 6?
Oh, hell yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Hell yeah. Because I like I know we had problems with 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the great things about it was that it had such a solid start,
Mm-hmm.
and it definitely did, like typical show, typical Lost season, like strong start and then just kind of like pockets, here and there. But again, I feel like there comes a point where it's like, I think once everybody gets to the 70s, once everybody gets back to the past, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like from there to the end,
Hmm.
it's really solid. Like looking back at it in hindsight, looking back at
Yeah.
it, like after having watched it, after having experienced and see all of the threads come together, it's like, oh yeah, no, that was actually a really great season.
Hmm.
It's like because it's definitely, I feel like it's definitely has a better. Well, I don't know if better is the right term, but I don't know. Like I just remember having more fun with it
Yeah.
than some of the other seasons.
That's interesting. Okay.
Okay, so it's 2, 3, 1, 6, 5, 4
Hmm.
from least favorite to favorite. Yeah, I could be wrong.
Well,
Again,
I mean, it's subjective, but
yeah, yeah.
if we want to get this right, there's only one thing we could do.
What?
Watch it again. I think from
Speed round. Let's go.
least favorite to favorite, I would go to season 2.
Okay,
I was gonna say season 5.
it's wow. Okay, okay. How does season 5 start?
Well,
Is it where they're back on the island?
the people on the island are time hopping,
Yes.
and Oceanic Six are slowly getting together.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That.
And
Yeah, I
like the
remember
first
that.
half of
Okay.
season
Yeah.
5, it was there was like one or two like kind of like low points or just down episodes. But for the most part, like that first half is really solid. And it
Yeah.
just builds and builds and builds till they get to the island. Once they're on the island and they all end up in the 70s, like I love Sawyer stuff in the 70s. But one after that, like I kind of like it was good, but I don't know, it was just it was weird. Like and I think a big part of my issue too was the way they were telling the stories was very similar to like seasons 2 again, where it's just like, oh, we're
Mm,
not really giving you too much, and it's just like I don't know. And then also
okay.
they really fumbled it with Juliet. Like
That you know what? That's very true.
she had such like a important role in the story, and it was just like I was thinking about this today. Like I figured out what it was because the first half of the show, you had the love triangle between Jack, Kate, and Sawyer.
Mhm.
Season 5, they really tried to do a love triangle between Sawyer, Kate, and Juliet, and it just didn't work.
Mhm.
They were writing Juliet like they were writing Kate, and
Mm,
it wasn't the right character. Like
yeah.
Juliet in seasons 3 and 4 is not the same Juliet in season 5.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
someone who becomes extremely what's the word I'm looking for? Insecure due to another woman.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That's true.
from her man's past. Like it was just really weird. I know that's just one specific thing, but I felt like there was a lot of things in that season where it felt like we were taking, even though the plot was progressing, the storytelling was taking a step backwards. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, they're trying to treat this like season 2 again, where like we need to either fill time or we want to keep you in the dark for X amount of time. Like, I don't know.
Hmm.
Uh, I I actually have fonder memories of season three, even though that was very ups and downs.
Mm.
So I'll go seasons two, five, three.
Okay.
Now this is tough. Then I think I'll go six, one, and four.
Wow.
One
Okay.
is pretty
Okay.
high. One is tough because it's such a good season, but in the grand scheme of things, it's so different than the rest of Lost. It really feels more like a prologue than Lost, because the way they tell the stories is it's different. The way the mysteries are handled is different. It's like they literally give you nothing with season one compared to everything the rest of the show. Even when like season two, which I think had a lot of trouble storytelling wise,
Right.
they were still able to progress the plot in a faster way than season one.
Hmm.
So season one, it's kind of like this enigma on its own, and I think, and we've discussed this before. When everyone say, "Oh, Lost at its peak was season one," and I was like, guys, season one's only 24 episodes.
Hmm.
There's like 120.
Yeah.
So it's like when you talk about quote unquote Lost at its peak, like that wasn't even Lost. That's not like Lost on average, that was just
Yeah.
like the beginning. So
Yeah. And
uh
yeah, it's nothing to say of like, fine, like there are crazier episodes. Like we haven't gotten even into like the deeper lore or anything of like the island. It's just
yeah.
that, like we still haven't really gotten to know these characters.
Yeah.
They're all still very bare bones. It's like somebody who thinks season one Lost is peak or the best it ever was, they still think that by the end Sawyer's just a redneck racist.
Yeah.
You
Dude,
know?
like Hurley was one of the last characters to get a flashback. And like
Yeah.
if you think of Hurley in season one, like there really isn't a lot of character there. They gave
Yeah.
him enough to make him lovable and fun and trusting, but you don't really get his backstory until like the last couple of episodes. Like he's in that back chunk, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh and I feel like it was that way for a lot of them. Like a lot of these characters throughout season one was still just kind of archetypes.
Hmm.
They're just really well done archetypes, which is what I like.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I guess we're both in agreement. The best season of Lost was season
Season
four.
4. Hell yeah,
Dude,
dude.
yeah.
It had
Um,
everything. It was, yeah, it's just that's peak Lost right there,
right.
baby.
And no one talks about it. They're like, oh, that's when things get crazy because they added like there's a lot more time travel and now they have like the flash forwards. I'm like, yeah, man, but like it was just like so intense that whole season and it never let up. It's like
Hmm.
that whole season, they made that whole season like they make the finales where it's just like a ticking time bomb.
Hmm.
It's so good. So, but now 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, got 8 categories here.
Oh boy.
What's the best episode of Lost?
Oh, how did I know this was going to be the next thing we talked about? What is the best episode of Lost?
Uh-huh, of all time.
Of all time? Obviously, dude, it's the one that has the fan favorite characters, Nikki and Paolo,
Oh
bro.
no.
Yeah, Nikki and Paolo for life. They got done dirty, man.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, no, 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 no. It's not that. It's not that. It's obviously the one with Jack's tattoo.
This
Damn,
was
this is
this
tough.
is tough. I think the contenders would be for sure the constant would be one of them.
That's where my mind was going.
Uh I don't know. When I was looking this up, oh, these are like top categories I pulled off of the Lost Reddit, and
Mm,
they're talking about their favorite episodes and whatnot. And
yeah.
a lot of people there are a lot of people who their favorite episode was the constant. And I was like, yeah, that is pretty good. Like it's one of the best for sure. Uh, but a lot of people were making the argument for the finale of season three. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, that was solid. Like, because everything's building because they're starting to introduce the freighter. because you have Naomi who crashes on the island, and then we don't meet any of the freighter people yet, but they're building to it,
Hmm.
and they're already like fighting the others, and then of course Charlie died the episode before. Like just a lot of stuff was happening. A lot of people said that was the best one, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I would have to watch it again. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The one right off the top of my head would probably, for the best one, would either be The Constant or Richard's episode in the last season.
Really?
Yeah. Now,
Really?
it doesn't like represent like this is what Lost is. Neither of those episodes do. They're both kind of like the standout. They kind of feel like almost one-offs
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the whole
yeah.
grand scheme of the story and plot. They're both awesome side characters who essentially go off on their own adventure,
Hmm.
and it just had the best stories.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know. Like, I know, like, I know we bring it up a lot, and I know we bring it up, usually in like, not that the episode is a negative, but it's usually
Mhm.
always brought up in a negative where it's like we wouldn't get episodes like this anymore. Is it the one where Hurley fixes the van?
The best, that being the best one.
As like, yeah,
Maybe if that's your best one.
like I don't know. See, I'm like I'm pulling between two.
Okay.
But I feel like the second option that I'm going with is like uh
Well,
is
this
is
just
it an amalgam? Like it's the one where we like fully get Sun and Jin's story.
in the first season. What do you mean?
Like I f- I feel like it's in a later season, but it's like where we find out like I don't know. It was it's because I remember Sun like sitting on a bench by a river in South Korea, and like Jin is there. They meet up. It's very beautiful. Does he propose there? Um
I got no idea what you're talking about.
Dang, I don't remember.
I
Yeah,
think I
okay.
skipped this episode.
Wow, can't
Yeah.
believe how dare you. But no, I feel like it was one of those episodes where it was like like having watched it, we're just like, man, Sun and Jin are in their own different show.
Hmm.
They are top tier, they are elite, and they're stuck in this show focused on white people.
I think I don't remember which one it was, but the one where Sun meets Jin's father.
Yeah.
Like
Yes, I think it's that
that
one
might
that
have
I'm
been
thinking
it,
of.
because
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
such a great moment and part of like episode and part of their relationship.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
So I'll say that's like a three. That's like a solid three, maybe. I don't. Well, that's the thing. I don't want to rank them. But I feel like
yeah.
okay, the top three. I feel like for me would be that episode, Sun meets Jin's father,
Hmm.
the Constant, and the one where Hurley fixes the van.
Nice.
You
Okay.
know, because that whole episode too was all about like Hurley confronting this thing that gives him fear that has driven his life,
Yeah.
and that he's got to fix this. Like they need something. Like they need this one thing on this island. They
Yeah.
find the Dharma body, they find the beer. Like they're doing
Hmm.
all this stuff, and
Ben's dead.
then
It's Ben's dead.
yeah, 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 and it's Ben's dad. That's right.
Hmm.
And then yeah, we get that fantastic, is this actually gonna work? I don't know, man. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. He's like, come on, come on. And then it turns on and freaking Steppenwolf starts playing,
Yeah.
Shambhala. And I'm like, oh man, like you're like you get I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. That's
I
that is in my top tier episode list.
All right. I can agree with that.
I
All right.
defy anybody to
This is
tell me
supposed to
that
be
that's
speed run because we got
skippable.
seven more of these.
Sorry.
Worst episode.
Yeah, probably Jack's tattoo.
I think so too. I mean, even the
Yeah.
Nikki Paolo episode was intriguing because it was this whole other side story, going on behind the
Yeah.
scenes, and then like they end up turning on each other. Like at least I was interested. I wouldn't say invested, but I was interested. I was like, what the hell's
Yeah.
going on?
It's
But yeah,
interesting. It kind of built out the world in a different way, but
yeah.
yeah.
Worst one, Jack's tattoo for sure.
Yeah.
Just yeah. Okay. This is funniest, or I think just fun, the most fun episode.
Oh, the most fun. Oh, dang.
I I don't know if I would call it fun. Well, yeah, I don't. Definitely not funny, but like fun to me. Like I like action, and I think Lost really delivers really well on the action, you
Yeah.
know. And I think season 4 when they finally have the showdown with Kimi's men, and I was like, dude, this is all, and they're blowing up like the barracks. That's
Yeah.
also the episode where Kimi executes Alex, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's a big
Like
episode. Yeah.
it's big, but like it's fun because it's action packed and so much plot is happening. But also, I love the character stuff, and I think that's a great moment for Ben. Unfortunately, they got to fridge his daughter, but it was such
Yeah.
a turning point in the character of Benjamin Linus and his story. So to
Yeah.
me, instantly when I think of fun episodes, I think of that one. What
Yeah.
was I don't remember what it was called, but it was season 4.
Hmm. I like that one too. Uh, I I don't fully remember the episode, but what was the episode where Hurley throws the throws the hot pocket at Ben in his house?
Oh yeah, I don't remember, but I love that. Michael Emerson talked about how he had so many scenes with food, and
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't mention the hot pocket one.
Yeah, because
I
that was
absolutely
instantly what
love
I
that.
thought of. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I remember man, yeah, there were a lot of episodes in season 4 that I thought were just really fun.
yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I'll agree with you on that one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What's the saddest slash most beautiful episode?
The saddest slash most beautiful episode. Uh, I mean, real talk. It's the finale. It's the end.
I was gonna say I have several options. I have the
Okay.
end. I have
Uh-huh.
the constant again.
Yeah.
Richards again.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I was even gonna say maybe Jack's early episode in the last season, the one dealing with his son, because that was
Oh,
just
yeah.
so crucial to his character.
Yeah.
Um,
I do feel like yes, I would say yes that episode, but were it not for everything on island,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah.
like that's kind of the thing that, the caveat that we're, kind of
Yeah.
neglecting. Um, yeah, okay.
I mean, I don't think any of them are hit as hard as like the finale. And again, it's the church scene. It ties everything up. It ties
Yeah.
not couple. It doesn't tie in like the polar bear stuff, and that's what I mean. But we've already
Yeah.
said, like, guys, it's not important. It ties up
Yeah.
the characters, and these characters. It ties up their journeys, and this is where it comes to. There were
Yeah.
people before the island. There were people on the island, and then there were people in purgatory.
Yeah.
That's well, I mean, I guess they also got off the island and then went back and then they got to purgatory,
Yeah.
at some point.
But they were people the whole time.
Yeah, they're full complete characters. And if you and if you overanalyze like we do, you'll see how all of the versions of them in the Flash Sideways are just continuations of the same characters.
Hmm.
We just haven't seen how they get there yet.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I'll say the finale as well. Halfway through. Weirdest episode.
Ooh, weirdest episode.
I
Uh,
I think I would go with I don't remember which one it was. I don't even remember what season,
okay.
but the one where we get Ben's flashbacks of when he's a kid and how he gets to the island and Horace is teaching him
Oh.
all the stuff. Welcome to the island, kid.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, like that's just weird because like that was kind of like if I remember correctly, our first like kind of introduction to like what the Dharma Initiative actually was.
Hmm.
Like actually what were they doing? And we still don't get answers, but it was kind of like one of our first times getting to see it from that perspective.
Hmm.
And it's just like if you know any history about any kind of I don't even know what you want to call programs like that. Like experimental studies with like I don't know, government or funding through certain universities. Like shit got weird in the 70s. You
Yeah, it
know,
really did.
just Google LSD experimentations and you'll find
Hmm.
how many like legitimate organizations were experimenting with LSD, you know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know that's what Dharma was doing.
Oh yeah, for
There's
sure.
some LSD hatch on the island somewhere.
Hmm.
Like,
That's what they were giving the polar bears.
right? Yeah. So go watch Beyond the Black Rainbow. I feel like that was a Dharma initiative thing.
Right?
So
Dang, yeah. Weirdest episode. Um, I feel like there are a lot in like seasons 1 and 2 that we're just
yeah.
not remembering.
Oh, I'll bring one
Oh,
up.
okay.
Dave, Hurley's
Oh,
invisible best friend. That one was just
ye-
weird.
that
And
was weird.
but it wasn't like done in a creepy, scary way. It was just done in a weird way. And I didn't
Yeah.
like that character at all. So I was like,
Yeah.
guess so.
Oh God, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess like maybe the one where they like it's got to be a Claire one. You know,
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like when like she got drugged
Mm-hmm.
by Ethan
Mm-hmm.
and like found like remembers that like hospital that she's in.
Yeah, even season two, that's where she goes out and she starts remembering what actually happened. And
Yeah.
it's just weird. I'm like, dude, Ethan was a weird dude, man.
Yeah, yeah, Ethan's so creepy.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, one of those Claire ones. Okay, next one. The most forgettable.
I mean, I feel like we've forgotten it, you
Do you
know?
remember Boone?
Yeah.
I don't. Um, there's nothing wrong with Boone. Like I enjoy like his role as a character. It just
Hmm.
wasn't really, interesting. I enjoyed Shannon's character a lot more and
Hmm.
their relationship more than just kind of Boone on his own trying
Hmm.
to doesn't he steal the water at some point?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think who else. Oh, Ila Ileana? Like she didn't really get her own episode, but I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to say what like the most forgettable episode is.
Yeah.
You know, like which, is part of the thing like when most of your seasons are like 22 episodes.
It's probably Jack's tattoo because it's like, don't ask me what it's about. I just know the result, like the ending is like, oh, this is what the tattoo means. That's what it says. That's not what it means.
Oh
Like, oh
God,
my
Jack.
God. Okay.
Wow. All
Typical
right.
American tourist.
Yeah. Calm down,
Uh,
white boy.
yeah. Um, I think season three had a lot of forgettable ones
Yeah, I think so too.
because that was the point where it's like, okay, we need to have flashbacks with these characters, but
Hmm.
we've kind of already told their story. Like what do we do? So
Oh, I'll tell you what the most forgettable episode is. This might be mean, but it's the one where Locke was part of like a drug farm.
that's right. That's right.
Like I always forget about that. I'm like, wait, isn't that part of Locke's backstory that he was like knowingly on a drug farm but didn't know that he was on a drug farm?
Yeah. Oh my God, I
Oh,
completely forgot about that.
Locke, you beautiful idiot.
Yeah. Well, that's the one that's forgettable. But I do remember like that's the one where he has like the kind of vision quest and like he sees Boone again and he like wheels him through the airport.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
like that was cool, but we forgot
I
about it.
completely forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah,
So
it's that one.
oh well. Um honestly, I would probably say probably the lowest point in the Sun and Jin relationship, the one where she has an affair with that guy, her tutor, and he kills himself.
Oh yeah.
It was just very weird. Like, I don't even remember what the story was. Like, on island, her and Jin and Saeed are on the boat and they have to get back. Like, I don't remember
Oh yeah. Yeah,
anything about
yeah.
that.
Me either.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird.
Um, nah, I don't like these next two, but it should prove interesting conversation. Best for beginners.
Best episode for beginners?
The pilot.
The pilot, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what, and I was kind of thinking about this when we were talking about the best episode. Like, if you could pick one to show someone, like, hey, check this out. This is why you should watch the show. Like it's kind of hard with this because it's a very serialized show.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And, and
And like something like The Constant wouldn't have the same impact.
yeah, that's the thing. Like this this is different than shows like Next Gen. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Where it's like you could theoretically pick any like a episode from one of the seasons,
Uh-huh.
and regardless of whether or not somebody knows these characters, you could be in on it. You're like, okay, they're on a
Yeah.
spaceship. Okay, this is the captain. Oh, okay, cool. They're doing this, like, and still incredible writing, incredible performances all across the board. Lost, you can still get the same incredible writing and performances, but you don't know any of these people because part of the issue
Yeah.
is that even with Dave, even
Yeah.
with an episode like Dave, we're still however many episodes and seasons into Hurley's story,
Right.
So we're not gonna know. We're really not gonna know anything about it.
I would
So
say you could make an excuse for the Richard episode, but it's like it's kind of a spoiler for Richard. Like it's really cool to see Richard for a long time and then you get his backstory,
I,
you
I
know?
yeah, yeah.
But if you
I
just happen to watch it, like I think there's enough there where like you could keep up with it.
honestly, yeah, that might actually be the best one
Yeah.
because it is so far removed from everything else. And really the two main features that we get are Richard and then the brothers, Jacob and his brother. Like
Yeah, that's
because
true.
they
Don't watch
because
that if you're a beginner though.
yeah. Well,
um
I mean,
well cuz
it,
like
it
there's
kind of
not
doesn't matter.
well that's what I'm saying because there's nothing in this. If you like this episode, you're going to hate Lost.
Mm,
If you hate the episode, you have no reason to watch Lost, you
yeah.
know?
Okay, yeah, okay,
Whereas
that's
the
true.
Richard episode, like if you love it, this is just one of the great ones. There's
Mhm.
more, you know?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like what Richard's episode does is that it introduces him, but then also introduces the brothers. Jacob and the smoke because they're both like tempting him
Oh,
throughout
I
the
thought you were talking
episode.
about the brothers episode.
No, no,
I
no,
was
no,
like,
no,
don't
no,
watch that one.
no, no, no. Don't watch that episode. No, 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 no. But yeah, because
Yeah,
they're both tempting him throughout like
that's
the
the most
episode.
forgettable. Um,
Right.
yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
if yeah, I would say maybe Richard, maybe the other 48 days because sure, like it's not really a twist, but like you eventually find out like, oh, there are other survivors from the flight.
Mm,
So like you have that spoiler, but it would be interesting to talk to someone who like they get that story first.
mm,
I don't know how well that would go over, but you could try it. And then I was gonna
interesting.
say if for whatever reason you don't want to start at the very beginning, uh to episode 4, the lock episode. Because I feel like that's the first one where it was like
Oh,
firing on all cylinders. The first three
yeah.
were good. There were great moments, but it's like it was Locke's episode where and Terry O'Quinn talked about it too in the Q or in the Jimmy Kimmel thing. He's like, that's when I knew like this show was special. I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, yeah. And they even said when they were pitching it and JJ Abrams was pitching the show to Terry O'Quinn, he even said he's like, because he worked with Terry O'Quinn on Alias, and he's like, yeah, just so you know, you're not gonna have a lot to do for a little while, because you're just one of the characters. But when we get to your character, you'll see, like it, you'll kind of see where we're going with your character. And when you see Locke's first episode, you're like, holy crap. Oh God, like it's so good and it really sets up who he is and lays the foundation for where he's going and where the
Hmm.
show's going.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah. So if you have to start with not episode 1, start with episode 4, Locke's
Episode
story.
4.
Yeah.
I
You'll
think,
miss Kate and like I think Charlie's story. I don't remember what those first 3 are,
yeah,
but yeah, just start on number 1, guys.
yeah. Please
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Last question.
Okay.
Another one I hate. Where it should have ended.
Oh God. Uh
I have a cop out.
okay.
I say the end of season 5,
I was gonna say the same thing.
and then the end is just them being in purgatory because the purgatory was so much better than well when they went back to the island.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh man.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like here's the thing. I feel like you and I, whenever we're watching a show that we just truly vibe with,
Yeah.
we're kind of ride or die, even
Yeah.
through like the down
Yeah.
periods, even through all the stuff. Like, because I mean, we won't get into it about Battlestar, all right? But everybody brings
Yeah.
up Battlestar,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, there's a clear point where I feel like you could make the case that the show could end, and for some people say should end there. But my man, that's that's when it gets good. That
I agree.
look, here's the it's good. It's a great show. But for that season, that's when that season takes off
Yeah.
because it gave you that ending. It gave you the ending that, oh yeah, this is what we would have wanted. But then it takes it further and it's like, how do they deal with it? How do they deal with the
Yes.
ramifications? Who
Yes.
stays? Who isn't gonna be here by the end of it? All these
there's
things.
there's so much like so many people just kind of get off on like nihilism, and they're
Yes.
like, what if Superman goes evil, things
Yeah.
like that. What if like the worst case scenario ever happens, like, oh yeah, that's what it would be like in real life or whatever, and
Yeah.
like that was part of Battlestar. Like, what if they get to, I'm not going to say anything, but
Yeah.
what if this happens and it's not the result we're hoping for? What if it's worst case scenario? And you're
Yeah.
right. They give us the worst case scenario. And then we still have 10 episodes left. And you're like, well, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, dude. Like, if you look at the final season, um, because of the writer strike, it took 2 years to tell
Yeah.
that last season. So it was done
Yeah.
in two 10-part segments. That first 10-part segment, like, it's good, it's all right. I just don't have a lot of memories of it. Like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, whatever. Outside of the ending.
Yeah.
But then when you look at the last 10 episodes of Battlestar Galactica, I'm like, dude, like, I love the ending. I know a lot of people didn't,
Yeah.
but
Same here.
those 10 episodes are just firing. Everything from the first 4 years is just it's like this is it. Like everything, like we're not saving story for another season. Like it's all
Yeah.
coming down to this.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like all the threads that they've laid bare, like they're here. Like they've all come
Mhm.
together. Like we've been ramping up to this since season one.
Yeah.
Maybe even potentially since the miniseries.
Yeah.
With those last 10 episodes.
In a way, they even
Um,
do it better than Lost does. Because
oh, yeah.
a lot
I
of the
Yeah, 100%.
finale of Lost really has to do with like elements that don't really come into play till like later in the show, like
Yeah,
Jacob
like
and the
season.
Man in Black,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the Flash sideways, stuff like that. Whereas BSG, it's like, man, like you said, miniseries, season one, like all
Hmm.
of the storylines that they started way back in the beginning, it's finally ending. Like they're wrapping it up or it's coming to a head, and you're like, oh my God. So
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
so it
for
should
yeah,
have ended with Battlestar Galactica.
it should have ended when they crossed over.
Yeah.
The survivors of Oceanic 815 get
Yeah.
on BSG, and then everybody on BSG, they get to take a little vacation.
Yeah.
They have a beach episode.
You could say that like Lost, you could end it at season 5 and just say they all died. Or if you really want the nihilist ending, end it at season 4. No, no, the nihilist ending is season 3. Because
Yeah,
that's when
yeah.
like, well, I'm trying to remember.
Well, because season three ends,
It's it's where Jack's saying we have to go back, but we
yeah.
haven't seen them how they get off yet. So I was gonna say season 4 because it kind of ends the same way where it's like we have to go back, but like I think, oh, that's where Jack realizes who's in the coffin,
Hmm.
and it's locked. Like, oh, so yeah, you can't
Hmm.
end it there either.
There's no like I feel like there's no way to end it like you would have to end it middle of season 4 after we get like what led up to Jack saying we have to go back. You know, because that was the whole crux of like the beginning of season 4 is like, hey, this is Ocean. These are the Oceanic Six. Like
Yeah.
who they are. You know, how do we? You know, and then it's
It's
like, how did they
just
get to that point? You know, that's the
the
thing.
you can't do it.
There's nothing built into the show where it's like, oh yeah, this could have been the finale, or this should have been the
Yeah.
finale, except for 5. And by 5, you're like, well, that sucks. They all just blew up when the nuke went off.
Yeah.
You know, so
Because yeah, because outside of that finale, all the other ones did really well tying up the previous season while
mhm.
also laying seeds for the next. So like any one of those endings, if that had been the last episode, it still would have sucked because there's a lot of open storylines, like, well, and
Yeah,
a lot of teases to the next season. And it's never the case of like, oh, this is just a preview for next season, which I feel like a lot of Game of Thrones did. Like if you look at like their big episodes, it was usually like episode 9. And in episode 10, the finales were kind of more chill,
the
but they
finales
were,
would like wrap up,
yeah, they were
you know,
seeding the next
this.
season big time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Whereas Lost is like, no, this is like they're straight up cliffhangers every single season. But
yeah,
it's like this cliffhanger wraps up what we just went through, but it's also pushing us forward into the next season.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I
yeah, I don't
agree.
really think, you know,
Yeah,
there's nowhere
yeah,
to end it.
yeah. No, yeah. This is the one question that I just disagree with because fundamentally, sh- Lost as a show, there's no other point to end it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
I don't know when they figured out the ending or where they started implementing it, but where it ended was perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
Chef's kiss. Listeners, let us know. What did you think of the show Lost?
yeah.
Let us know. What was your favorite episode, least favorite, the weirdest, the funniest, the saddest, the most beautiful? Just hit us up on all the socials. I'm really curious to know kind of everyone's favorites and least favorites of Lost. This is officially it, man. Like there's no more Lost after this.
There's not like a comic. There's not like
We could
a.
play the video game one day. I don't know. We have to
I'll
find like a PlayStation, a
we'll
PS1 or something.
we'll stream it. We'll stream
Yeah.
it, but it'll just be me watching you play via
Yeah, single
Doma.
player game.
There you go.
Oh man. Everyone, thank you for
Well,
joining us on 4.5 years, 202 episodes. It wasn't all lost, but most of it was.
hmm
Um, yeah, geez, I don't even know. You like what to say. We're definitely still going. We're gonna do more.
hmm
Uh, I guess we should tease that. We're still gonna be taking uh we're not jumping into Andor next, like we are probably in the next couple weeks, but we're going to be kind of putzing around and just enjoying some free time with the pod for a while. So next week we're going to start watching movies again. We might even
Oh,
have the
yeah.
video podcast. I don't know if Sam's decided on his movie yet, but I got mine.
I I have not.
All right. So next week, I don't think it's streaming. You would have to rent it.
Oh, great.
Next week, we are talking about the 1984 Walter Hill cult classic,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Streets of Fire,
Whoa.
a rock and roll opera. Oh, I'm
Whoa.
sorry, a rock and roll fable.
There you go. Oh
Oh
man.
man, is this a movie? I don't know if it's a good movie,
Is it the most movie?
but
Do you
it is
think?
certainly a movie, and it is on my top 20 movies of all time.
Wow.
It might be number 19, but it made the list.
But it made the list. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
Walter Hill, fresh off of the Warriors in 48 Hours, and they decided to make rock and roll fable set in a world both uh different but terrifyingly similar and familiar all at
hmm
the same time. And
hmm
there's rock and roll music to get us through it.
Hey man.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
be awesome. I'm gonna have to lend Sam the Blu-ray so he doesn't have to rent it. Go check it out. At the very least, it has a great soundtrack. I could say that. um,
Wow. Do you know that movie has been on my watch list for years.
I had never heard of it. I had always seen it. I don't want to say too much, but like what when we talk about, I'll talk about the little bit I knew about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it certainly is. I don't want to say I had fun. It's certainly a
And
movie. I'll say that.
that's what counts. There you
Yeah,
go.
and that's where we'll leave it with that.
Yeah.
So join us next week as we talk about Streets of Fire.
Hell yeah.
Until then, hit us up on all the socials. I'm on Insta and Threads at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch, and on BluSky at Matthew Jimenez.
You can find me on Instagram, Threads, and BluSky at Real. It's REEL Texas Weirdo. And again, everyone, thanks for being with us. 4.5 years. That's not nothing. And we've appreciated you sticking with us through it all.
So until next time, get lost.
Get lost.